interested in again and again. And one of it, broadly speaking, is succession planning. Plan for continuity in the firm. So my firm encountered a form of continuity about 6 months ago when I handed the reins of the company to my existing team. It is something that I planned for the first day I set up Splash, my firm. And by now, it is slightly more than 9 years old. I had planned to give about 10 years of my life to Splash. And I think it would be more than enough for a succession team to take over in the midst of it, during which time. And if it had gone according to plan exactly, then my D-Day should be December next year. But it ended up to be early. And that is, I think, firstly because I was quite intentional about leaving. That means the exit. But I didn't mean to exit when things go bad. I meant to exit even on the first day, when I gave shares to my 4 other partners, making us 5, to get into the business. And midstream, we got in another person, making us 6. And many of you had cautioned me that with 5 or 6 shareholders, it will be very difficult to manage. And I think I must give credit to the team. They have made it easy for me. And that's why I can show up in so many of the 10 meetings. And apart from this, so many times I find myself in Hong Kong, in China, looking for new business leads, which may not always give me the results that I had intended to have all the time. So for a very small team in Singapore, which grew from 5 to now about 22, we were quite anxious on getting ahead. In fact, our motivation for joining Taan worldwide on our day 1 was to get business. And I don't think that was the best of intentions. I'm glad that over time I get educated that this is a group of trusted peers. We share openly and we get wiser from that. And it's also my association with Taan over the last few years that taught me to be courageous and letting go of my fear. And my fear that the team cannot take over effectively, that fear went away about 6 months ago when I negotiated with the guys on how they can take over and run the day-to-day. In fact, they have done so for the good part of the last 2 years, to be fair to them. It's just that if I'm there, they will regard that as someone to sign off, the one to have the final say. And I'm not exactly very democratic in the way I do things. And I think the same may goes to many of you. We need to be somewhat subjective, to get certain things done, for better or for worse. But this, I'm also happy to let go. And it started because other than the day 1, I intended to let go upon the end of the 10th year, I had also wanted, during which, once we reach a certain plateau, if you like, to start incorporating new elements into the firm. And that was time in which I started talking to other firms about being part of us, or we being part of them. Merger of equals, or me buying into them, or the other way around. We have searched for all. And the most recent as last year, was to bring in 2 new shareholders. These shareholders will receive new shares, and the purpose of that is to bring in new expertise from them. And very importantly, is to jolt to action a few of my partners who by then had enjoyed a certain degree of comfort, or complacency, if you like. And it's all in good intention that I wanted everybody to kind of be a bit more keenly aware. And keenly aware they indeed were, because by the time I reached a certain valuation, which is agreeable with the potential new shareholders, they got my existing shareholders very, very interested and very, very serious that I am serious about leaving over time by the end of next year. And today's topic is in fact about the DIY, do-it-yourself valuation. I enlisted no lawyers, no investment bankers, because the firm isn't big enough to warrant that. If you had taken a quick look at how splashed financials were like over the last 3 years, in fact, it had remained the same. This is not my excuse for not having brought it here, but I actually want to accord Jerome, which is the one who took over for me as the managing director, the room to do that, to do the reporting. But he couldn't be here today, so I have to keep up to the promise, so I am here today. And Splash financials have remained about the same. In Singapore dollar terms, we had been able to generate about 3 million Singapore dollars in revenue a year, of which we take away 1 million for third-party costs, bring us what we call the gross profit at about 2 million Singapore dollars. And then we lock off another 1.8 as our operating costs, chief of which will be salary. And what remains is a okay, not too big kind of reserves, what we commit into our reserves. That has not changed over the last few years. I'm not entirely comfortable with that because I think that if I do that, I might not be able to attract new talents. So I give my new shareholders, potentially new shareholders, 3 scenarios. I think one scenario is it remains the same. I give them an open book about how is it like, as open as I would with you, with the big figures. They look at it and say, that's not too bad. And I told them that it can be more exciting. It can do better than accumulating 200,000 Singapore dollars a year. It can be 300, it can even be 500,000. And I give them, as a result, a sliding scale of how long they think, with their active involvement upon subscribing to the new shares, that they can see their investment coming back. So that is a very much back of the envelope way. If they believe that Splash can just continue at 200,000 Singapore dollars a year in reserves, it means net profits after tax, then they might want to think how long they can recover everything. And I give them the prospect that they will need 5 years, because my personal valuation of the firm is 1 million Singapore dollars. Now you might ask me, why 1 million Singapore dollars? And the truth is, I just want to have a ballpark, just to bounce around first. I said, if it's 1 million, we'll need 5 years to kind of measure up. If it's 330,000, you need about 3 years. But if you're looking at a projected net profit after tax of 500,000, then you only need about 2 years. And it is useful for me because it is a reminder for me, if I had been able to effect many of the ideas that the Taan members have shared with me, I could go for the breakthrough mode. That would see a doubling, if not more, of our net profits. And 500,000 Singapore dollars in net profits after tax is not impossible. But if I have listened to all but done nothing out of it, maintaining might not be too hard of a problem. And somewhere in between, I can still go for something which is new. So I have 3 options: status quo, something new, or something breakthrough. All of which, it is not too hard to corroborate some ideas from you guys and my counterparts in Singapore. The question is, who is going to do the action? If it's going to be me, then it's totally unfair to Splash, because I've intended to go at the end of next year. That's intentional, that's deliberate. I joined the business with a view of handing it over within a decade. And December next year is a firm. It's a goalpost that's fixed, it doesn't shift. And I intend that the company should be at its peak, if not at its very good point or better, by the time I leave. I want to leave a place better than it was found. And I think I managed to do that over the last half a year with the handing over. And Splash is in good hands. Yeah, my partners are in good hands. The only regret I have is none of them have shown up at the Taan meeting to know you guys better. I'm sure if they have done so, they will love you as much as you have enjoyed my company and me, your company as well. Because we are all human beings, and once we have face-to-face, the trust develops. Right now, it is fairly armchair. They have a notion of Taan, they're trying to assess if the value is going to be worth it, and I think that is not the right track to have. So I do wish, when you come to Singapore, October next year, you can see them in real form. And of course, they, in terms of you, and that would be good. So I have 3, back to this scenario, I have 3 scenarios. And I offered to my new shareholders. They're all excited about all of these 3. But because both of them have different temperaments, so they differ in accordance with how they think, how long it takes for them to recover their investments. But there was no debate on the company being worth $1 million. They just want Terry to say that if they were to come in, I will stick it through to the end of next year to make sure that things are on track. And I agreed, because that does not contradict what I wanted to do for Splash anyway. But I have to go by the end of next year. That's the real thing. So the more aggressive they are to push me, and I push them, then by the end of next year, we can get something aggressively done. Now, the thing is this: once my existing shareholders found out about this, because they are kept involved in all of these discussions, they start thinking, will they lose control? Control is also a subject which many of us have talked about in our many meetings, informal or formal. To me, it is nothing. There's no control if you're looking at a business that's not really growing. So, but to my existing shareholders, it is very precious, because they have really taken unto them for 9 years and more years to come, that they are part of the company, they want to grow it. And I respect that. So I asked them, would you or would you not accept the new shareholders? They say they would rather buy from me. Now, I must emphasize that this is not my intent. I've never wanted my existing shareholders, which are my founding partners, to come up with money when they join the firm. I have not intended that to be the case, midstream or towards the more advanced stage, but they would rather do that. So we work out a plan, a certain cash flow plan for them to buy for it. And it's quite similar, I must add, to what Marlin Network has shared some time ago and even yesterday about they earning their keep and more and buying me out that way. I must say I have not been exactly very prepared for that because I feel bad that my partners, all of whom or most of whom are younger than me, are at a life stage in which they want to care a lot more for their families and cash will be important. But they are quite adamant about it. And I think it's okay because that will spur them to choose among the three: the status quo, the new, or the breakthrough. And I'm pretty sure that they are striving for the new, which means Splash will do better than during my time. Because again, for the last few years that I've been here, I haven't been able to show a much better set of financials. I can say we are stable, and that in itself could be attractive. But there's a lot more we can do as a team and as we grow. Not to mention that the costs are escalating, we need to leverage a lot more about that. So I did that valuation. It is a constant conversation with the friends who became potential partners, and that took place over the last 3 years, including asking industry players if they want to be part of us, we can be part of them, including others in the same verticals. And I thought I've exhausted all my options, and therefore I was willing to bring new shareholders in. And all this in good time for my exit by the end of next year. I have also got to add that my commitment to Taan since last year as the Asia Governor is to see the growth in our membership. And I would like to see the growth of Taan also in Asia, because that would be good for the agencies there. And therefore, before I end, just want to tell you this: why am I so adamant about giving only 10 years? Because I want to have a clear purpose when I get involved in anything at all. And this consciousness become a lot keener over the last few years, that I cannot be caught just doing the same thing again and again. I need to evolve. My purpose is to be able to help that people involved in creativity and design grow from strength to strength. So today, I spend more of my time talking to my counterparts, some of whom are in the industry longer than me, to think about continuity, to think about performance. And I think to live out a purpose like this will be infinitely more rewarding than to just guard my turf in a tiny Singapore, thinking big, but not really putting it into the action that's very much important. That many of you have already put into action. I think I hear the sound there, and that is a reminder for 50 minutes. Oh, okay. It is. Okay, good. Thanks very much, and we can leave the Q&A right after this or during break. Thanks.